My name's Stephen Mason, and I'm the Research and Development Lead for the Palliative Care Institute, which is based at the University of Liverpool. And I'm also the Programme Lead for the new MSc in Palliative and End-of-Life Care. And I'm part of the School of Medicine postgraduate team. So the postgraduate team are here this morning to tell you about some of the programmes that we offer at the University of Liverpool. And these are programmes which can be taken by, they're multi-professional and multidisciplinary in nature, and can be taken by intercalating students as well. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the MSc in Palliative and End-of-Life Care. We're going to have a talk later from Manea about global ethics, global healthcare ethics. And then lastly, David Aziz is going to talk about transplantation science. And then if we can get a connection with our department lead, Susan Buttress, she's going to do a little bit of an overview of our programs. So the MSc in Palliative and End-of-Life Care. I do a few palliative care talks to different groups, and I quite like using this quote here from Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov's got nothing to do with healthcare. He's a science fiction writer. And if you've seen the film I, Robot, that was probably out about 10 or 15 years ago, that was one of his. And he says this, he says, life is pleasant, death is peaceful, it's the transition that's troublesome. And again, I usually use this in one of the early sessions to have a big discussion around what end-of-life care means and what our relationship to death is. But I just like to introduce this just because I think it's interesting thinking about this in terms of ahead of thinking about an MSc in palliative care and what that contains. Life is pleasant, I guess, hopefully it is. I guess people will be rooting for England today, and that things may be pleasant or may not be, depending on how that goes. Death is peaceful is a big, challenging question in terms of cultural issues around what people see of death and how things have changed, and geographically where you are in the world and how people view death. And the transition is troublesome. Well, most people actually die relatively peaceful and well-managed deaths. But where it is troublesome, that's where palliative and end-of-life care come in. And that's partly around how we've phrased our master's programme. So modern palliative care is really the responsibility of the lady in the picture here you can see to the right. This is Dame Cicely Saunders, and this is her in St. Christopher's Hospice in the late 60s, which she opened really to try and advance the care of patients with chronic incurable disease. And the quote you can see to the left is the WHO's definition of palliative care is, and there's some important points within there. Key is that it's quality of life for patients and their families, and it's key is also about that it's life-threatening illness, so it's not just end-of-life care. Palliative care is for anyone with a chronic, incurable, life-limiting illness. And lastly, it's about the identification and assessment of the challenges that patients have in the treatment of pain and other problems, physical, psychosocial, and spiritual. And that really holistic philosophy is really what underpins our practice in palliative care. If you're a qualified healthcare professional already, or if you're halfway through your training, you'll know that actually we need to do much more than just look at the medical model when we face the challenges and try and support patients. A pain that a patient may have, if we take pain as an example, can have a somatic kind of quality to it, but it can also have a psychological, a social, and a spiritual dimension to it. And if you get a pain, and if you get a patient with complex pain, you can throw all the analgesics you like at it, but if that pain has a psychogenic or sociogenic or spiritual root in it, you know, we're going to struggle with it. And this is really what the palliative care focus is trying to understand the patient's perspective and look at the patient as a whole. And again, palliative care is everybody's business. It may surprise you to know that the data shows us that approximately 1/3 of patients in any large DGH at any time are in their last year of life. And most people don't really think of the hospital in that kind of frame, that actually 1/3 of the patients in there are actually in their last year of life. In palliative care, the need for it is only going to increase, and it's going to increase exponentially. As people are living longer and we're getting better at treating disease, people are also developing many more comorbid conditions, and that often makes care at the end of life quite complex. And it's a global issue too. From the Lancet Commission report in 2017, we know about half of the deaths that occur each year involve serious health-related suffering. And when equated, they found out that's about 6 billion hours of serious health-related suffering, which could be mediated or moderated by good palliative care intervention. And as you can see in the picture there, most of that happens in low and middle-income countries. Again, this other picture here from the Lancet report shows the availability and the use of opiates in managing pain, which I guess is one of the key symptoms for palliative care patients. And you can see the disparity. So it's not just thinking about a local level in terms of palliative care, it's thinking about a national and an international level. And palliative care is of great value. This is a very famous study in palliative care by Jean Temmel and her team at the in Harvard, where they did a study where they were looking at early palliative care for patients with incurable non-small cell lung cancer, and they're particularly interested in looking at quality of life. And you can see on the first graph there, the HADS is the anxiety and depression scale, and you can see the early integration of palliative care really significantly reduced depression and reduced anxiety a little bit. But in terms of quality of life for the PHQ-9, also had a significant effect in reducing that. But what they also found as well is that actually early integration of palliative care not only improved quality of life, but improved longevity as well. Patients lived on average about 3 months longer than patients in the control group. And again, that was with a good quality of life. So palliative care actually has multiple benefits to it. So in Liverpool, we've run a number of postgraduate modules over a number of years, which addressed core competencies in different specialities in respiratory medicine, care of the elderly, general practice. And we kept getting feedback from students that we wanted to do something more to coalesce this into a program. So we've spent the past year developing the MSc in palliative and end-of-life care, and it will be the first time that we run it this year, starting this September. There's 4 educational aims to the program, and simply these are basically that broader contextual understanding of what the application of the principles of palliative care are. So how do we apply the principles of palliative care in practice? Secondly is looking at the theoretical principles that underpin that clinical practice. And then thirdly is looking at the evidence base and how we make sense of the evidence base in terms of guiding our practice. And then lastly, it's about using all that together and developing clinicians' knowledge and skills and attitudes in that setting to enable them to become clinical leaders and potentially leaders in other areas and spheres within their current practice. The structure of the course is flexible. It can be done part-time or it can be done full-time. And there's core modules that students can take, and they can supplement those with other modules that depending upon their interest. There are opt-out points at PG Cert, PG Dip, and MSc, and the modules we have are 30 credit modules. So students can take 4 modules and they're in the final project, and they can complete that in a year full-time, and they can do that in 3 years part-time, or potentially squeeze that in 2 years part-time if they're really keen to get that going. The core content of the program is managing pain and symptoms in chronic disease. That's a standard. We do have advanced communication skills training, which is part of the core palliative care modules. We look at multi-professional and multidisciplinary team working, because that's essential within palliative care, working within other disciplines and working within other specialities. Key is also looking at ethics and our understanding of ethics and how we apply these in clinical practice. And lastly, of course, looking at the evidence base. The evidence base is growing in palliative care. It's by no means complete, but again, there are often challenges, and because of the nature of our patients and disease, they have complexities within applying the evidence base. And the learning within the program is very much applied. We have access to experts from national and international frameworks and international collaboratives that we engage with, but we really have tried to build in practical and placement-based assessments within this program. So the required modules, the 2 required modules, advanced practice in palliative care and advanced practice in end-of-life care. And the advanced practice in palliative care has a 10-session placement based within that, where if you were within the Northwest region, you'd be placed within a hospice or a specialist palliative care team to really contextualize the learning that you get. If you're based elsewhere or based around the country, we would negotiate with local hospices or local specialist palliative care teams to facilitate your placement there, so that you don't have to travel too far from home. The advanced practice and end-of-life care module, the second module, is really about working as a team to try and get that multidisciplinary team working together and looking at some of those challenges which are particular to the last days and weeks of life. The option modules which are available for the program, at the moment there are only 2 option modules. So there's applied ethics for clinical practice and there's research methods. And the research methods module there is really to help prepare you for your research project that you would do to complete your master's if you're going further. There will be future options available, such as acute clinical oncology and leadership. So hopefully give students a little bit more choice about how they develop and design their program in terms of their achieving their MSc. The feedback we have from the students is pretty good in terms of what we're doing. We've been running these palliative care modules for a number of years now, 6 or 7 years, and we've structured these modules to align with the core clinical competencies within the framework for training and looking at making sure that they align with other competencies from other specialities as well. So this is why we've translated, as I say, these modules into a full program. So that's just a quick overview of the program and that we're running at Liverpool. Those are my contact details. If people want to mail me or phone me to ask any questions, please feel free to. I'm more than happy to talk about the differences and the nuances within the program and take a little bit more time to see whether the program would be a good fit for you, whether that's something you're looking at this year or something you're looking at in a couple of years' time. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Stephen. We have 2 questions from the Slido. So somebody has asked, is it possible to do a PG cert during the F1 year?
Yes, if you can do the PG cert during F1 year, if you do that part-time, absolutely.
Okay, and the second question was, how has COVID impacted the course, especially with obviously high risk and vulnerable patients? Interacting with patients and even their care as well?
Well, the course is blended learning. So there are some study days where we do face-to-face and things like the advanced communication skills training is we try and always do that face-to-face. We have developed online approaches for everything that we do. But so far we've been able to do things as we would as normal. So we've run, for example, our advanced communication skills training is a 2-day workshop-based program, and we hold that in Liverpool. And we've done that with a bit of social distancing engaged within the teaching rooms that we teach in. The clinical placements still occur. And again, because this is seen as essential training, so as with undergraduate medical students who are still in placements, then yeah, we've managed that the clinical placements still occur. But again, it's something I guess that we're all subject to in terms of clinical placements and that kind of clinical engagement. There may be changes that go through, but at the moment, because we've run the program as a blended using face-to-face sessions and online sessions, we've not had too much of a interruption to what we've been doing. So it seemed to have worked okay.
Okay, great. At the moment, there's no more questions,
Okay.
but I think we'll move on to the next speaker and then we can get back to questions if there are any at the end.
Hello, I will try to share my screen, which is very weird for... can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So my name is Teodora Manea Hauskeller, and I'm the program lead for 2 MSc programs, the one in Global Medical Ethics and the other one in Global Healthcare Ethics. The Global Medical Ethics is a version of the Healthcare Ethics designed especially for intercalating students from medicine and dentistry. The healthcare ethics is a global issue, and there are lots of examples from the WHO. How can we deal especially with medical practice in cross-cultural scenarios? And this is what is explored here. So it's basically, it's a different type of ethics program. Insists less on the ethics and law, although it has many components of, referring to legislation and so on. But the main focus is how ethics arrives at the bedside, what are your ethical dilemmas and how you deal with those. So this is why so far, so the students who attending the modules were encouraged to share the experience, and we always customize the teaching so that we cover their ethical dilemmas. That is how we understand ethics. We want to not refer to abstract principles, but to bedside ethics, clinical problems, exactly how they arrive in medical practice. Then those normally in normal life, they will lead to ethical discussions, to consultation, then of course transform in laws and regulation. And those laws and regulation will direct your norms of behavior and your professionalism. So if you understand ethics in this paradigm, what we will be exploring in this course are how and what are the bedside ethics, what are the clinical problems you are facing. So as an overview, the global healthcare ethics is designed for healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, healthcare managers, medical students, so a very wide range of professionals. It is not limited to doctors. It has a very flexible, personalized design with the core of applied clinical ethics. So there are two 30-credit modules and lots of options. You can do it part-time or full-time, and we try to use all our online resources we developed over the COVID time. But of course, we would like to see you on campus. So it's a face-to-face teaching program if nothing worse happens. So it allows students to explore ethical dilemmas connected, as I said, not only with the clinical practice, but also with new medical developments. There are constant medical developments and constant biotechnology problems that raise ethical issues. Cross-cultural practice of medicine. So what are the cultural representation, how those can create conflict, and how do you make decisions in this context? And of course, patient expectation, complex clinical situation, and so on. So we have, it's not, the modules are not taught by one person. We try to invite experts from across the university and from the healthcare institutions around to enrich your experience and to make you feel the ethics in the heart of medicine and not something abstract. For the intercalators program, we have placements in different healthcare institutions, from hospital to community care, and those will be an excellent occasion for students to see ethics on the side. So in terms of career, this is an opportunity for you to understand ethical challenges in a global context. It is, as I said, integrated with clinical practice, and you will have the opportunity to explore your ethical dilemmas in your own field. In terms of what you can do, so there are ethics or policy-related jobs nationally and internationally. You can be member in ethics committee, again, at the national or international level, in health institution, health organization, other heard of the National Council of Bioethics, Department of Health, GMC, and so on. And the recent developments show how important is ethics, and we are expecting its importance to grow constantly for the next year. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, Teodora. Okay, so, let's see. Could you give us some examples of popular dissertation topics?
Well, the program is just starting, actually. So it will start in January next year. And the one for intercalators will start in September next year. So we had 2 tester modules, and so far no dissertations, but they can cover anything because the way they are structured. So we have applied ethics for clinical practice, first one, the 30 credit modules, and that takes you through the main ethical principles, you know, addressing informed consent, confidentiality, and so on. So each of those topics can be a dissertation topics in itself. Then the second module, it goes through different areas of medicine. So ethical problems in beginning of life, you know, neonatal and so on, cancer, mental health, and down to palliative care. So goes through the life cycle. And there are lots of ideas, just, you know, for example, assisted suicide, or there are all kind of ideas. But as I said, so far, we didn't have dissertations, so I can't.
Right, okay, so it's quite a new course, so okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of how you assess the course, is it a mixture of everything? Is it exams and sort of essay style, or is it just a dissertation at the end, or?
Well, the assessment structure, thank you very much for the question. It's very interesting because we wanted to make it novel, and it is so basically for the modules we start with a presentation around the case. Normally there are cases that you encounter in practice, and then that's the first part. Then you write a smaller essay to reflect on the case you presented there. All of this time, you know, we'll have feedback, and that grows into a bigger essay. So it was like for the applied ethics for clinical practice, first one, it's like a 3-part assessment for this course. For the other one, the second part of this module, we had like choices and a case study reflection, for example. And the dissertation is not like a usual dissertation. It is, we call it a research project, and we want to write with you an article that you will publish in ethics journal, a medical ethics journal, and a presentation that you will be able to deliver to a specialist audience. So it is designed for you, and your interest is not the boring old dissertation. So we try to make something new and revolutionary here that helps students.
Oh, okay, that's great. There's actually a question. Someone said, was there any opportunities for publications as well? So that's really helpful.
That's what we aim at, because the clinical problems arriving, for example, we had a fantastic reflection from ethics in surgery. You know, you don't think, you just think, okay, informed consent, and what happened after that is not. But, you know, there are very, very interesting ones is in ethics in surgery, or ethics in mental health during COVID, or so there are those ethical issues, how they arrive in practice. So, and we want to frame them ethically properly, to develop ethical arguments, and to send them to BMJ.
Right, great. Someone said, how many students are you usually going to be taking on your course? Is it quite a small year?
Well, we aim, you know, to have about 30 students, 30 to 50 students. We didn't think of a minimal place for the first one. To be honest, I don't have data here, but we aim to foster as many students as possible.
Okay, perfect. That's really great, really helpful. So we can move on to the next speaker now. David, if you can share your screen.
Hi. Unfortunately, I can't get my camera to work.
That's fine.
Right, and my talk shouldn't, or my presentation shouldn't take so long. Okay. Hi, so my name is David. I'm a lecturer in medical education. I'm the postgraduate. I'm the director of the postgraduate qualification in transplant, organ transplant, and I'm also the director of a new thing that we started, which is a flexible learning sort of qualification, which I'm going to talk to you about both of them today. So the program, the first one I'm going to talk to you about is Personalized Healthcare Studies for Professionals. And what it is, it's basically we're putting together modules from diverse areas to make a package that would be suitable for prospective students. So our aim was to make sure that it's tailored to you, to your needs, and we do things that you're interested in, and we do things that will help you progress. So you're picking things that will be suitable for you, rather than doing a full MSc in something or a full qualification in something just because you're interested in one part of it. So we thought we'd bring things together for you, and we try to make it colorful and exciting for you. Am I not showing the right screen?
We can see modules at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Is it okay? Right.
If you want to start it as a PowerPoint, you can click on at the bottom of your PowerPoint program.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Because I'm presenting. To me, I'm in the presentation view.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's
I don't know what's going on.
See it. It's okay.
Right. If you can see it, then that's fine. I apologize that it's not full screen.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So we've started with. So we have two lists of modules that you need to pick from both. So the first list includes modules that will help support you with research skills, some professional skills and education as well. And then you get some more sort of specialist modules from another list that you can choose from as well. Include things around oncology, transplant, palliative care, cardiovascular diseases and cardiovascular management, and management and leadership. So we can organize a package for you from using these modules. And the packages we organize, or the package that we can provide for you, are either a PGA, so it's 30 credit, or a PG Cert, 60 credit. So to give you an example of how this could work, so we could let's imagine there's a nurse called Mr. Smith, and they work on a cardiology ward. They are after some career progression, so they want to upskill in cardiology, management, and leadership. So we can plan something for them to support them. And the good thing about this is it fits in with what they're interested in, because they work on a cardiology ward, and it also gives them the skills they need for the progression, so they can apply for that next grade or for the next job. Another one could be a pharmacist.
Sorry, David, just to disturb you. Your slides aren't moving. You're still on the modules one.
Am I? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. Can you see this one?
Yeah, I can see the case study one.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on.
I think you just have to click on them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So another example could be a senior pharmacist who has recently started a new post with a role in pharmacy informatics. This role would require her to upskill in various areas. So, for instance, she might want to learn a little bit more about IT and other areas of leadership and management. So we can also plan something like that for such potential student. We can also look into organizing something that's a little bit more large scale, so to address the needs of an organization across a range of professionals or professional areas. So this is the type of thing that we do within the personalized healthcare studies for professionals. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is we have an MSc in organ transplant. You can take the MSc as full, or you can take each one of them. You can take one of the modules as a postgraduate award. They're all 30 credit modules, or you can bundle them together into PG certs or do all four as a PG dip. So the normal structure is you do these 4 modules, which is clinical transplant and immunology, which is basic introduction to immunology, current practices and procedure, which looks more about transplant in children, but also looks at the majority of the practices and procedures. Current trend in management of long-term post-transplant complication, which looks at what we do, how we can look after the patient after transplant, but also look a bit more about at elderly patients. And then we have the module 4, or the integrated care, ethics, and in decision-making in complex transplantation practice. This is more looks more at holistic care and the ethics of transplant. So you can do any of these modules by itself and get a PGA award. You can bundle any 2 together and get a PG cert, or do all four and get PG Dip. You can also add a dissertation on top of that and end up with an MSc in organ transplant. And for any further questions, feel free to email me on this email. And that's it. Thank you. Short and sweet.
Great, thank you so much. Before we get to the questions, can I just ask Susan if you wanted to start your talk and we can take the questions at the very end, just because we're sort of running out of time at the moment.
Yes, of course, that's fine. So if we move on to intercalation, and I shall share my screen.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so if we want to start, so if you want to be inquiring about intercalation, then this is the best email address to use. Obviously, we will take intercalated medical students from obviously the University of Liverpool, but any university across the UK, and there are also some international places. Go to the next slide. Obviously, intercalation is where medical and dental and veterinary students all take a year out of their clinical programme and student for an additional degree. So it's a real opportunity, an opportunity to further studies at greater depth. It also really broadens your outlook on your career, gives you the opportunity to really study something that perhaps might be an added interest and also give you real career advantages. In terms of the University of Medical students, about 48% of medical students intercalate. It's usually a really high population. It's very popular to have this opportunity, really just to step out of medicine and into either one specialist area of medicine or into doing a research degree or even looking at something such as management or healthcare law. So it's very popular, and it really we get some excellent feedback from students that do this. This is the best place for information. If you go onto the School of Medicine website, then you'll see the intercalation options at the School of Medicine. You'll see the programmes that are available and also how to apply and obviously any other queries. So do feel free to look around this for opportunities that are available. So here are some comments from students. Most people felt it was hard work, but really worth it. It is just 12 months of your life. It's over in no time, but people really felt that it was an excellent opportunity. They would highly recommend it. You know, some really nice feedback here, that people kind of gained a real kind of lot of skills and insight into other specialities, and it really does give you that opportunity to network as well across the university. Next slide. So options. So traditionally, there was a BSc or a BA, kind of a bachelor's options. But more recently, we've had a lot more opportunities to do a master's degree. It's usually a higher level, still a major talk component, and you have a short research project, a short dissertation that you can tailor towards your own interests. There are also opportunities to do a Master of Research. It's a smaller talk component, and that you kind of major in your research. So it's really focused on that research area and skills. And finally, a Master of Philosophy or MPhil, completely focused on research, and obviously allows you to expand. Next slide. And here are some examples. Again, these are the best places to find these courses. Postgraduate options examples. We've had a number of new exciting programs that have been developed and that are available. Our clinical ophthalmology and vision science has been developed new for this year. it allows you an opportunity to really get some real kind of placement practice-based experience, real option to understand this type of speciality, all completed in a year. You have a really nice kind of introductory week which will lead you into these placement sessions, and you will have a real kind of nice clinical experience. Palliative end of life care, Stephen's just talked about that. Again, fantastic experience for those that want to either enter that type of role, or really just want to understand more about that whilst they continue with their studies. Biomedical Engineering, again, that is fairly new this year, a real opportunity to get into the engineering side of medicine and complete that degree in terms of innovation development. Then that's an excellent choice. The Masters of Law is has been a popular programme for a number of years and is a really good option at Liverpool. Global Medical Ethics, again, is a new one for this year. That allows you the opportunity to have a placement with a global charity, and real option there to expand kind of your global understanding of the world. And the final one, Acute and Critical and Emergency Medicine, our ACE programme we talk about, highly popular, again, a real clinical base to this programme. And for 2022, there are options for any of the UK students to join. So for any of these programmes, then the best place for information is that website below. And really do feel free to contact us to discuss anything associated with how you might want to intercalate or any detail about the programmes. Next slide. And our postgraduate research, Master of Research examples. These are, obviously, again, been popular in the past. Less practice focused, and these are specific focuses for the research programs, biomedical sciences, musculoskeletal aging. Got a real reputation at Liverpool for all this type of research, clinical sciences, and the Institute of Integrated Biology. Okay, and our postgraduate research MPhil, again, in these main areas of research, if you wish to really concentrate on doing a research focus rather than a practice focused, then these are all the specific areas that we do well for intercalating students. And thank you very much. And apologies for the delay with some of these presentations, but do get in touch if you'd like to know more. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you.
intercalating right now, and it's actually been such a great experience, and Shivani is too, actually. We're doing quite different things. So we really encourage everyone to have a look at what's on offer at your university and other universities as well.
Fantastic, thank you. I do have an ending presentation if you'd like to share.
I'm not sure if we have that much time left.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can
I just say about international students, therefore, again, please do, we have a number of scholarships available. Do get in touch on any of these email addresses. If you want to email me personally, it's susan.buttress, BUTTRESS @liverpool.ac.uk for any of these options, and to find out more about applying for 2021 and 2022. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it.